This is GBC News, and I'm going to have a conversation, a very interesting one, I would say, with one of very profound leaders of this world. So I have His Holiness Keshava Swami. He is with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and he is the UK supervisor. He's in Ghana, and I decided to just drag him here into the studio for us to have a conversation here on GBC News. There are lots of issues we'll be talking about, what brought him to Ghana, issues concerning spirituality, issues concerning the understanding of spirituality itself and humanity. Of course, there's a couple of books he's written, and one that actually caught my attention, and what to also expect from him after that. He's done with his program here in Ghana, and he's going back to the United Kingdom. So, Your Holiness, good to see you. I hope you're well.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
All right, I hope you're doing well.
We're doing good, yes.
Right.
It's been a busy weekend. We've had a lot of festivities and celebrations, but feeling recharged.
Okay, so what brought you to Ghana?
It's actually the 25th anniversary of our Hare Krishna temple in Accra. The movement was actually registered here in 1981.
Wow.
But in 1998, we opened the temple, and this year obviously marks the 25th anniversary. So we've been celebrating all the achievements and the different activities that we've been conducting over the past decades.
Okay, so this is your first time in Ghana?
Yes, I've been to West Africa, Nigeria, but first time to Ghana.
First time to Ghana. And what do you make of the country?
The smile of the people is wonderful.
Okay.
The hospitality, and also what I very much appreciated is the humanity and the spirituality of the country as well.
Okay.
Which you can see sometimes just in ordinary dealings with people. It's very personal.
All right. Tell us about Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna is an ancient tradition. It dates back thousands of years and obviously has its roots in ancient India. The movement is founded upon ancient scriptures known as the Vedas.
Ancient scriptures.
Yes,
okay.
They are ancient scriptures written in the Sanskrit language. And they talk about all kinds of things: yoga, meditation, karma, healthy lifestyle, and spiritual consciousness and awakening. And so the Hare Krishna movement was spread all across the world in the 1960s by the founder.
Okay.
And it also came to Africa and West Africa in the 1970s. So really our message is a message of spiritual upliftment and to encourage people to question the deeper meaning of life.
Okay, question the deeper meaning of life. So it's like a religion? I mean, Hare Krishna?
Yes, you could say it comes under the umbrella of Hinduism.
Hinduism, okay.
And in that sense, it's connected to the Hindu religion. But what we do believe is that what we're teaching is actually universal. So it doesn't matter what religion one practices, they can benefit from our teachings, our practices, and our insights into life.
So you don't necessarily have to be a member of the movement, but you can actually practice what the movement talks about.
Oh, definitely, yeah. What we actually see is that all religions have a unity in their diversity.
True.
And therefore, there are certain universal things that we all promote and believe in amongst the diversity of theology. So yeah, anyone. We have Muslims that come to our temples, Christians, people from all backgrounds.
All right. And then what's the link here? The Krishna consciousness. What about the Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, Krishna is a name of God. We believe that there's one God, but he has many different names. And Krishna is a name of God, meaning the all-attractive one. Generally, we are attracted to someone because of their qualities, their strength, their fame, their wealth, their knowledge. So God is the one who has all of those qualities in full, in an unlimited amount. And so Krishna means the all-attractive one. And consciousness means awareness. So the idea of Krishna consciousness is that as we're going through our life, we should always be in awareness of the divine, in awareness of God. When you're at work, you remember God. When you're praying, you remember God. When you wake up, you remember God. And even when you eat, you remember God. Krishna consciousness means to be aware at all times of divinity.
Of divinity. All right. So like Christianity that believes in life after death and all that, Hare Krishna also have got such beliefs?
Yes, the body is a vessel. It's just a machine. But the soul is spiritual, it's conscious, and it's indestructible and eternal. And therefore we understand, even in science they say energy cannot be created or destroyed, but simply transferred. So even that conscious life at the end of this body doesn't end, but it's simply transferred to another situation.
Okay. Since we started, I've noticed that you've talked a lot about spirituality. What's spirituality? What's your understanding of spirituality?
Spirituality means interfacing with that which is beyond the material.
Okay.
We live in a world of material elements. So this is earth, water, fire, air, ether. This is the material world we live in. And people generally mold their lives around material achievements, the achievements of material possessions.
Something wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with having material achievements, but what we say is that perhaps there is another dimension of existence which is beyond the matter. Because material, if you notice, is temporary. Everything breaks down in the material world. Our body breaks down, our abilities break down, our achievements break down. And therefore, we encourage people to look into the spiritual, because that's where you find eternal contentment, happiness, and eternal life.
Okay, but we're on earth. How easy is it for us to have that kind of spiritual incline about things since we are on earth?
It requires effort, just like anything else.
Okay.
We have busy lives, we go to work, we have families, there's so many demands, and then there's so many disturbances sometimes in the world. But by doing some spiritual practice every single day as monks, and even as Hare Krishna practitioners, we rise with the sun. So we're up by 4 o'clock in the morning. And it said by doing some spiritual practice early in the morning, throughout the day, one can then maintain their spiritual awareness even while living in the material world.
How easy or difficult is that?
It depends on how strong your purpose is and how deep your desire is. It's like if I say to you, how difficult is it to get a degree? Well, it depends on how inspired you are.
Inspired you are, and how hard you want to study.
Exactly.
Okay. You talked about how, what your purpose is, and I'm looking at how one can actually identify what his purpose is in an earth like this, and then link to that spiritual understanding.
Wow, that's a beautiful question. Yeah. We each have a unique ability. We have unique gifts, talents, a personality given to us by God. Einstein said, everyone's a genius, but if you convince a fish that it has to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's a failure. So we're not meant to live someone else's life. We're meant to find out the unique talents that we have. But then what we're meant to do is use those talents and abilities to maintain our existence in the world, but also to serve God. So say, for example, you're a journalist or a media presenter. So you have a talent for this. But then you're using your talents here to bring in spiritual consciousness into the world. And that way, you not only have a job that helps you here, but that job also helps you in the deeper quest of life.
For young people, identifying that uniqueness is a problem because there are a lot of distractions around.
Distraction and a lot of comparison. We're always competing, comparing ourselves with others. In England, they say we're keeping up with the Joneses, which means we're looking at the neighbors and we're trying to copy someone else's life. So therefore, we encourage everyone to look deep within themselves and see what unique aspect is there in their character. They say you were born an original, don't die a copy.
Because sometimes you talk to younger people, some actually want to find out that uniqueness, they want to find out that purpose, but the bigger question is, how do I do that?
Therefore, what we encourage people to do is always spend some time away from the noise of the world and spend time in reflection, meditation, introspection. What happens in life is there's so many noises around us. People's expectations, society's trends, the media's messaging. And in the noise of all of that, we forget to hear our own heart. So therefore, spending some time away from the noise and disconnecting from the world can help you find what your unique contribution is.
Some also argue that, I mean, with this kind of conversation, it sounds a bit abstract. And yes, so in breaking it down for that smaller understanding, so that it doesn't actually sound something a bit difficult to understand or difficult to actually do in its own abstract sense.
It is difficult, but therefore we have temples, therefore we have communities, therefore we have education. So when you come into, for example, our temples, then you get the company, the spiritual company, and the teachings and the empowerment which helps you to do it. So we don't learn spirituality in isolation. We learn spirituality in community.
Okay.
And when you do it in community, it becomes much easier. There's an African proverb: if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk with many.
Walk with many. All right. So it's not so much like you don't have do's and don'ts. Actually, you embrace things within the community to actually build on that spiritual, like technology, like education and all those things.
Yeah, we live in the world. We have phones. We have cars. We also buy airplane tickets and fly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made it here. But what we try to do is use all of that in a spiritual way.
How do you do that?
By making
those are also material things.
By making sure you don't become addicted or controlled by those things. We say it's not that spiritualists don't own things, but it's that spiritualists aren't owned by things. Okay. So that we have to ask ourselves: am I using my phone, or is my phone using me? You know what I mean?
That's an interesting one. I was going through your profile and I realized that you've written a number of books, about 10 of them, and the other books too that you've also co-authored. There's one that caught my attention, one of the books you've actually written. That is IQ, EQ, SQ, Life, the Universe, and Everything. What's the real story behind this particular book?
Yeah, IQ is interesting. People used to want to measure their intelligence quotient. And then the most intelligent people got admission into Mensa. They used to think that the most intelligent people were the happiest and most successful people. But later on, they discovered beyond IQ, you need EQ. Which means emotional quotient. Because you can be really, really intelligent, but if you can't control your emotions and you get angry, you can't actually access your intelligence.
That's true.
So then they realize EQ is really important, how to control your emotions and relate to others. But then they realized along with EQ, you need SQ, which means spiritual quotient, which means when someone has answered the questions, who am I? Why am I in this world? What happens after death? Is there a God? Do I have a relationship with him? And how can I find my deeper purpose in this journey of life? This is all SQ. And when one has their spiritual quotient, then it means the EQ and the IQ can be also accessed appropriately.
Okay.
And so if you want to live a complete life, don't just develop your IQ, don't just improve your EQ, but awaken your SQ, your spirituality.
Which one comes first? IQ, EQ, or SQ? Which one comes first in the sense that when I'm able to get any of the Qs, then at least the rest will be taken care of?
We would probably say you have to develop all of them side by side.
Okay.
So you go through an education system developing your intelligence, but throughout your life you're developing your character, but throughout your life you're also deepening your spirituality. So I would say they're not sequential, but rather they're things to be cultivated alongside each other.
All right. So IQ, EQ, SQ, and the title continues says that life, the universe, and everything. All right. That's where from the aspect of the universe and everything.
Well, we have to understand why do we live here on this earth? Why does this planet exist? Why is everything in the world the way it is? Sometimes people have questions. Yes. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Exactly.
So
I'll actually find out
these-
that from you, though. But you just finish up.
I'll
Yes.
finish on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Einstein, he said, never stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. And therefore, we encourage people to question life, question the universe, and question everything. Because by questioning things, you actually discover deeper truths.
But some also say that, sometimes when you're questioning, you end up uncovering things that you're not supposed to uncover. So some people are actually deterred from questioning. You're just supposed to accept it.
As long as you ask the right questions. The questions
Is there a
that
right
will,
question?
Well, the right questions are the questions which bring you in touch with reality. Sometimes we ask questions which can't be answered, or questions which don't need to be answered. And therefore, we should ask the best questions.
Are there questions that need not be answered?
Certain questions, they're not going to help us move forward in our life. Certain things maybe we'll never know the answer to, but we don't need to know the answer to. For example, sometimes we perpetually ask about things in the past. But even if we found the answer to that question, it wouldn't necessarily help us move forward in our life.
Wouldn't it inform us into the future?
It could, but it may also just block us from moving forward as well. So we have to look at the quality of what we ask.
The quality of what we ask. Let me just find out this from you. So why do bad things happen to good people?
Well, the first way I'd answer that question is by questioning the question.
Okay.
Do you actually know what's a bad thing? Because sometimes what happens is something happens in your life which you deem bad, but later on turns into good. I'm sure you can think of things in your past that you deemed as bad, but later on you felt that was good actually for me. And do we know who's actually a good person? Because today we're a saintly person, a nice person, but tomorrow we also slip up. We do bad things. So is anyone really a good person? Good and bad is part of our character. So therefore, answering this question is very complex, because we don't know what is actually a bad thing, and we don't know who is actually a good person.
Good person, yeah.
But now I'll give you some other spiritual context.
Sure.
Everything that happens in life happens for a reason.
I agree.
And therefore, when we ask why do bad things happen to good people, sometimes the difficulties that we go through are meant to awaken a higher consciousness within us. And therefore, sometimes when we go through struggle, we go through difficulty, we go through disappointment, those situations are meant to actually gift us with a higher consciousness. And therefore, sometimes even good people have to go through these things because it actually helps to awaken a greater potential. John the Baptist says, God puts great people through great trials and tribulations so that they can go on to do great things in their life.
That's a good one. I'm just told I have to quickly be wrapping up. But in wrapping up, how can one maintain his or her spiritual consciousness in a very trying world like this, so that you just don't backslide, but you maintain that spiritual consciousness? Maybe another person like myself who actually want to maintain that spiritual consciousness as I move on in life. How am I supposed to do that? So how can one do that?
I would recommend that everyone have a part of their day. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, or it could be an hour. But one part of the day in which you disconnect from this world and just focus on your inner world. Ideally, if you can do it in the early morning, that's the best. But what happens is when we take some time to meditate or pray or reflect or focus on spiritualizing our inner world, then when we come out into the outer world with all the distractions and disturbances, we'll be able to maintain our spiritual consciousness.
I always ask this, whether it's easy for that to be done, whether that is easy for it to be done.
We make time to sleep,
Yes.
We make time to eat. We make time for anything that we see as a priority. Sometimes some things are so important, it's not about having time. It's about making time.
It's about making time. Okay. Let's talk about the events here in Ghana. So what activities like this were you involved in since you came to Ghana?
Yes, this weekend we had a wonderful festival. Hundreds of devotees came from around the world.
Okay.
And we had singing, we had dancing, we had drama, we had spiritual discussions. Of course, we had food. The Hare Krishnas are known as the kitchen religion.
Yeah.
So we're always serving out free, sumptuous food.
Was there anything Ghanaian?
There was some Ghanaian dishes as well. Yes, yes. Don't ask me the names of them.
But did you try any of them?
I did.
You did. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And for how long did these programs actually go on?
It was a 4-day festival.
Okay.
And the culmination was on Sunday. And it was a time really to generate inspiration, and a time in which to bring the community together, and a time also to showcase how the Hare Krishnas are actually making a positive contribution to the world. We're not just a spiritual organization, but we also try to do a lot of welfare work. We have a school, we focus on education.
Okay.
And we also try to make Ghanaian society even more wonderful than it already is. So yeah, it was an opportunity to share that with the world.
Okay. Tell us some of the influences, here in Ghana and maybe across the world, of the Hare Krishna movement.
Some of our activities,
yes.
yeah. One thing that's really important to us is to share with people healthy diet. They say you are what you eat. So every day we distribute around the world globally hundreds of thousands of free meals.
Free meals?
Yeah,
every day?
Every single day.
Must be rich.
We get support from many people and the government.
From
and
rich
donors.
people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who are members of the movement?
Well, they say what goes around comes around. So if you live a life of giving, then you receive in the process. So we do that. We do a lot of education. Einstein, he said, you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them. So we try to awaken people to a higher way of thinking through philosophy and theology. And then we also do a lot of work in which we educate young people. We believe that young people are the future leaders of society, and that investing in them means investing in a better world for the future. And so we do, in our Ghana Accra temple, we have a school with 200 children. And we're providing education, the material education and spiritual wisdom side by side. So like this, we have many activities that we do. And we welcome anyone to come and visit our temple in Accra. You can look it up on the internet, Hare Krishna Accra.
Accra, yeah.
And see for yourself. I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you see.
Notice you've mentioned Einstein a couple of times in our conversation. I'm sure you are an admirer of Einstein.
Well, I studied at university. I studied science and I studied the humanities and I studied management, computer science.
Computer science, okay.
And I try to, what I do when I share wisdom is I try to bring in wisdom of all types of people. So not just the spiritual texts, but the scientists, the eminent people of our time, because ultimately wisdom can be found everywhere.
I agree. Right. So you practice? I mean, you say you're a computer engineer. Do you practice?
Well, when I graduated at the age of 21, I studied at University College London. And when I graduated at the age of 21, I decided to follow my inner calling. Which was not to become a computer scientist or a programmer, but which was to explore my spirituality and share it with others. So when I was 21, I became a monk.
Wow.
And I've lived as a monk ever since for over 20 years. So we carry this staff. This is the staff of someone who has taken the lifelong vow of monasticism or celibacy.
And your family, they were okay with that? I mean, going to the university?
Naturally, it was shocking for them in the beginning.
So how did you get them to accept that this is what you want to do?
I lovingly explained to them that this was my spiritual calling, And over time they've grown to appreciate that. And of course, whatever divine blessings I get by whatever work I'm able to do, they will also surely share in that as well. And so, yes, I live as a monk now, and we travel around the world, basically trying to share a spiritual message in all types of forums. So we go to corporate firms, we go to universities.
What do you tell them at the corporate firms?
We tell them how to be successful in the world in a spiritual way.
How is that possible?
Because the Bible says, what profiteth a man who gains the whole world but loses his soul?
Yes.
So we teach them that you can get ahead in your business, you can be successful, you can climb the corporate ladder, but don't lose your values, don't lose your character, don't lose your deeper sense of self, because sometimes in the endeavor to be successful in the world, we sell our soul.
There's a whole notion out there that, I mean, if you want to do successful business, sometimes you have to bend
lie,
some bridges, cheat and
manipulate, exploit.
because you really need to get some deals done. You really need to make some money. So it becomes a bit difficult to leave that spiritual consciousness in the business environment or a corporate environment.
We tell people you earn a living by what you get, but you earn a life by what you give. And therefore, we encourage those who are successful in the world to always be giving back. And in that way, they actually experience a deeper satisfaction.
Do you talk to politicians too?
Yes, we go into government organizations. Last year, I was in the British Parliament. And to the leaders who make decisions, who are shaping the future of society and creating the world we'll all have to live in, we try to share with them to have spiritual perspective when making decisions. In other words, don't just make the decisions which bring you immediate benefit, but try to make decisions which will create long-term well-being.
All right. And do you, when speaking to them, do you, at the end of the day, get the understanding that they are listening to you and they are actually paying attention to what you're saying and they're going to do it and practice it?
Because that's a hard one to
because it's one thing listening to, I mean, there's beautiful things you've talked about here, and it's another thing for that person going out there to live it and for it to become part of him or part of her.
I think we are finding a lot of reception to these messages.
Yeah.
They say actually in the world today, the biggest problem in the next 10 years, the biggest health crisis, won't be cancer, won't be heart disease, won't be any physical ailment, will be mental illness. Depression, anxiety, stress, psychosis, schizophrenia. These are the biggest problems in the world today. And therefore, even the politicians are realizing that we need something which is going to deal with the mind. We need something which is going to deal with our inner well-being, because we've conquered outer space, but we're struggling with inner space. And therefore, we're finding more of a reception amongst the politicians now.
That's good to know. All right, so you're leaving this evening?
I've got a 10 o'clock flight out of Accra Airport to London Heathrow, and I'm going to miss Ghana, but I hope to be back again soon.
Maybe next year, this year?
It won't be this year, hopefully next year.
Hopefully next year. Okay, thank you very much for
joining
us. I've enjoyed talking to you. Maybe you have a final message to our viewers. You can actually, that's your camera, so.
We thank you for receiving us in Ghana, and we hope that you'll come and visit us at the Hare Krishna Center in Accra. You can Google it, find us online. We're open 7 days a week, 365 days a year, here to share spiritual values, whatever your denomination, in a way that will be practical and empowering and inspiring. Thank you.
All right. Your Holiness, thank you very much, and have
much.
a lovely day and a safe flight back to UK.
And you too.
All right. So let's all try as much as possible to develop that kind of consciousness, especially the spiritual consciousness, because, hey, we actually need it, irrespective of where you find yourself. I'm George Sapo. I'll see you again when I have to see you again. Bye-bye.